good afternoon, and very good afternoon. Welcome to the show. Welcome to VUEGRAPHY. Well, today we are going to talk about the best value photography gear, especially from Nikon. This video is going to be uh, split into two parts, one for the DSLR, one for the mirrorless, more specifically for the for the Nikon. So what exactly I'm going to talk? Well, I'm going to share with you my experience about the best value Nikon gears. So what the basic idea is, usually what we think is the more money we are going to spend on buying any photography gear, so we expect to get the best out from that gear, regardless if it's a camera body or if it's a lens. So I'm going to share with you the best value photography gear from Nikon, both for the DSLR and for the mirrorless. In this video, I'm going to be specifically talk about the DSLR equipments, DSLR cameras, DSLR lenses, more specifically from Nikon. So the best, what do we mean by best value? Like I just said, like we think that the more money we are going to spend, the best performance we are going to get, regardless if it's a camera or it's a lens. Well, it doesn't work like this always, unfortunately. We think that we are getting the best, but we are not getting the best. We are most of the time we get a part of it what we are spending on the equipment that we are buying. But there are cases where we get more than what we are expecting from the lens or from the camera, and most of the time we don't even realize the potential of the camera or the lenses. So let me break down this video, this specific video, which is only about the DSLR domain, into camera and in the lens part. So first, let's talk about the camera. What do I mean by best value camera? So let's start with that. The best value camera is this, that you're spending not much on the camera, but camera still gives you so much value in terms of speed, in terms of quality, in terms of durability, how long it's going to last, stuff like that. Quality, in terms of megapixel, in terms of high ISO capability, dual card slots, high frames per second, blah 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 blah. So let's talk in a nutshell. In general purpose photography, the best value camera that you can get right now from Nikon when it comes to DSLR, it's D700. Yeah, Nikon D700, legendary camera. When it was launched at $3,000 back in 2008. Right now, you can get full frame, 12 megapixel, a very good for low light. Can give you you can get around $300 to up to $500 depending on the condition. The lower the number of shutter counts, the more expensive you are going to get. The Nikon D700. Even till now, the value of Nikon D700 is insanely high. Like people who owns it, they don't want to sell it. So all over the eBay, there are tons of Japan camera store who are selling the D700 depending on the condition. So if it's around 20,000 shutter count and less, or 10,000 shutter counts and less, yes, they are available. You usually get around $500. So if you are having 100,000 or 50,000 above shutter counts, you can get $300. So imagine full frame DSLR at the price of $300, like between $300 to $500 you can get. That's the best value. uh, the colors are absolute. I already make a video about the Nikon D700, which I'm going to put the card somewhere over there. Let's see if I'm able to find it. Not only that's one camera. The second camera that you can get best value uh, is the Nikon D750. Well, I'm not a big fan of Nikon D750, but you can still. Is one of the best camera when it comes to the insane high ISO and dynamic range. Uh, 2 card slots, cheap camera you can get because it contains the very best SLR, which gives you the very great dynamic range and insane high ISO capability. So D750 is another great choice, best value that you can get. Well, probably you're going to ask, okay, or think, what about the D800 series? I'm not going to recommend D800 series because it's still very high, but I don't think so. It's good enough. But I do recommend the D7100. D7100, which is 24 megapixel crop sensor camera, which you can get D7100 and D7200. I wish if you can get D7200 at lower price, somewhere around $500 or less, but it's really great value camera that you can get right now. D71 and D7200 both contains a very good value. Very high, especially D7200 because it goes up to 25,600 ISO, shoots 6 frames per second, very good, and very great dynamic range, up to 800 ISO, very good camera, best value. I still wish to have D7200, but if you are not getting D7200, go for D7100, and they both are very great value camera. They very great value in terms of the number of megapixels they can provide, in terms of the dynamic range that they can provide at the price point with which they are available right now. Okay, so crop sensor, you probably think, okay, what about D500? The problem with the D500 is D500 is still holding its value more than $1,000. Yep, still, it's still around $800 to $1,000 because it's a full pro body. It's the heavy piece. It's for built for sports action wildlife. The menu inside the D500 is it's so advanced that the almost all of the options that you see for the autofocus are used in Z9 or Z8, which we know how good they are. So D500 is another league, but it's because of its high price. I don't recommend. But of course, if you have a budget, go for it. When it comes to if the budget is not an issue, I'm not going to recommend you D7200 or D7100. I'm straight going to recommend you D500. But we are talking about the value of money. So when it comes to the great value of money, D7100 and D7200 shines. So I hope you are getting the point. All right. How about D7800, which is a full frame camera? The, I don't recommend D7800. The reason is, of course, it's a very great camera, a very great SNR firmware, very great high ISO capability, very good dynamic range. It's better than D750, to be very honest. The D780 is better than D750, but the problem with is that it doesn't support it doesn't support any battery grip. First of all, uh, that's a big issue. So if it D750, you can get the battery grip, get longer battery life. So I don't recommend D780. D850 again, its price is still up there even after 6 years because it's the best DSLR in the world. So it's not good for the value that you are spending, the lowest price. But again, we are targeting in this video to go for those cameras which are good value for money. So D7100 full frame, D7200, D7100 crop sensor. So far we are able to sort out these 3 cameras. Now talk about the flagships. Sorry. When it comes to flagship, we have only two cameras, D3, D3S. These two flagship cameras are the very best that you can get right now, which can provide you the best value for money. Instead of D3S, go for D3, because D3 is still the beast of a camera. Two card slots, 12 megapixel, better low light capability, 9 frames per second, and insane build quality. Top of the line weather sealing. D3S is having little advantages because it was the first flagship which supports 720p video recording and couple of other features. The thing is, when it comes to best value for money, and especially when it comes to flagship, D3 wins the race against the D3S. D3S is still a high price camera. It's still touching around $1,000. $800 to $1,000, that's where D3S is. But D3, you can get 600, 700, 700, and if it's worse condition, $500. So between $500 to $800, D3, and from $700 to $1,000, you can get D3S. These two cameras are best value for money. Flagships. D4 is another camera which I can recommend. Very, very great value for money. Doesn't blow any highlights. 16 megapixel flagship camera, two card slots, 11 frames per second instead of 9 frames per second, and its build quality is it's crazy. D3S, D3, D3S, D4. D4S, unfortunately, its price is still touching to up to $1,500. Not good. D4 is still around $1,000, $1,100, depending on the condition. And I already told you about the price of D3, D3S, D4. So these three cameras are the best value for money. So that's how it is when it comes to DSLR. Okay, maybe some of you think, what about the D3000 series or D5000 series? The problem with D3000 series and 5000 series is they don't drive the D-type lenses. They don't have the autofocus motor built into it. So they don't drive the D-type lenses, which are very good value for money. So I don't recommend those cameras. When it comes to G-type lenses, yeah, D3400, D3200, very good. You can go with it, but you will be limited with the lenses. You only go for E-type or G-type lenses. So I don't recommend those D3000 and 5000 series cameras. I already told you my view about the D7100, D7200, best value for money. D7100 is still it's better than D7200 because of the low price point and with the best number of megapixel, best dynamic range, high ISO capability. When it comes to high ISO capability, D7200 shines because it has two-stop advantage over D7100. Alright, so nutshell, crop sensor, D7100, D7200. Full frame, D700, D750. Flagships, D3, D3S, D4. So these are the cameras that you can go when it comes to best value for money. So let's close the DSLR. Now it comes to lenses. Lenses, we all know we have two types. We have prime, we have zoom. So I'm going to talk about the primes quickly. Primes, the best value for money. Okay. There is one camera, sorry, not camera, there is one lens, that 35mm f1.8 DX lens. Best value for money. It's a cheap build quality, but plastic made, but it got the low price first of all, and it's sharp. So it's 35mm 1.8 DX lens, which is equal to 50mm full frame. So that's one lens, best value for money. Second lens, 1224 f4 DX lens, best value for money to provide wide angle view for the crop sensor cameras. There is another lens, but it's not good. It's very expensive. It's 17 to 55 2.8 DX, which is equivalent to 2470 2.8. Unfortunately, that lens is very expensive. I don't recommend, but its build quality is insane. You can use on full frame that and still get away without any varianting after 28 millimeter. That lens is so damn good, but it's very expensive. I don't recommend. So instead of that, there is one lens I can recommend, 16 to 80, uh, 16 to 85, not 16 to 80, 16 to 85, I guess. Yep, that's 3.5 to 5.6 DX lens. Very good camera, all around lens. You can is equivalent to 24 to 120 full frame. Very good lens. Not the 2.8 to f4. There are two versions. 16 to 85, which is f3.5 to 5.6, and there is another one 4.5. There is another one which is 16 to 80 from f2.8 to f4. That lens is a little bit expensive uh, and bulky, but the other one, which is 16 to 85, that I recommend that lens for general purpose photography for crop sensor cameras. Best value for money. Very sharp lens. So that covers the your crop sensor lenses. Um, I was talking about the prime, but I just mentioned zoom. Somehow it's okay, but I recommend it. When it comes to full frame, all the D-type lenses, 35mm f2 D-type, best value for money, best value for money. Even it's f2, but it can provide you up the bokeh up to f1.6, because that's the only lens which you can focus very close, so you can get the bokeh of 1.6 instead of f2. That lens is so crazy. So 35mm f2 D-type lens, best value for money. 50mm f1.8 D-type, best value for money. If you get 50mm 1.4 D-type, that's really good, but f1.8, best value for money. 85 1.8 D-type, best value for money. Even if you get 85 1.4 D-type, a little bit expensive, but when it comes to normal portraiture with a decent bokeh, 85 1.8 D-type, best. It renders image 3-dimension. Very good lens. Then 105 f2 DC, legendary lens. Highly recommend. It's my all-time favorite portrait lens. 105 f2 DC. 135 f2 DC is a little bit expensive. Even 105 f2 DC is expensive, but you can get around $1,000 or less. 180 mm f2.8 D-type lens. If you get that lens, don't get away. Immediately buy that lens. Best value for money when it comes to nearly 200 2.8 focal lengths. That 180 f2.8 lens render image better than any 200 2.8 lens. Period. If you find 180 2.8 D type, go and immediately buy it. Is the best value for money. I don't need 70 to 200 when it comes to full frame. If I want to shoot at 200 2.8, I immediately switch to 180 2.8 prime and I shoot, because it renders better than 70 to 200 at 200 2.8. That I highly recommend. Best value for money, that 180 millimeter f2.8 D-type lenses. So that's covered that part. There is another zoom lens when it comes to traveling. When it comes to traveling, you wish to carry 14 24 2.8. It's a big lens, heavy lens, and it's expensive. There is alternative, which is 18 to 35 f3.5 to 4.5 G type. I highly recommend that lens. Best value for money. I repeat, 18 to 35 f3.5 to 4.5 G type. best value for money. You won't regret. Trust me. Best value for money. When it comes to the higher focal length between from 24 to 70, there is one lens called 30, because the first lens which I said 18 to 35. After that there is another lens 35 to 70, 2.8 D type. It's a push-pull lens and it's 2.8. So you already have 18 to 35. Okay, so this lens is 35 to 70, 2.8. Best value for money. You will get very cheap, and it's 2.8. Next, I can recommend you 18 to 80 to 120. Not 70 to, not sorry, not 80 to 120. My mistake. 80 to 200. Not 70 to 200, 80 to 200. There are several versions of 80 to 200. Internal zoom, push pull, go for push pull. 80 to 200, push pull 2.8. Best value for money, around $250, $200 to $250, maybe in some cases $180. You will get 80 to 200, 2.8. Can you believe it? Best value for money. Best value for money. Go for that lens. When it comes to higher focal length, of course, we have a lot of lenses. We have primes, 300 f4, 300 2.8. We have 400 4.5. Sorry, 400 2.8, 500 f4, 600 f4. But there are some lenses which I can recommend you, and they are very great value for money. First of all, 200 to 500, 5.6 E type lens. That lens is under $1,000 and is the best of the best of the best telephoto lens, longer telephoto lens that I have used. Best value for money, best VR, best optical quality, and best built. Very good weather sealing. I cannot say enough word about that 200 to 500 f5.6 lens. I used to have Sigma 150 to 600, which I regret. I still regret why I bought that lens. And when I bought it and the way it renders, I immediately sold it at half the price. I lost my money, but I don't have any regret, because once I switched to this Nikon 200 to 500 f5.6 lens, I feel so happy because it renders the best optical quality, best VR, period. I tested. At the longer focal length of 500, you can, without any tripod, you can slow down your shutter speed up to 130. Not 140, up to 130, 1 over 30, 130, not 130, 1 over 30th of the second, and it's still you'll get tag sharp images at 500 millimeter without tripod. That lens is insanely equipped with the best VR. Best VR. Build quality, very sharp lens. I just love this lens. Best value for money. 200 to 500. When it comes to 400, there is metal lens f 3.5, 400 3.5. That's another lens, great value for money, but it's very heavy and it's manual focus lens. So I'm not sure how many of you are good with manual focus, but I go with that, and best value for money. So I think that's it. I sum up this video about the best value for money for when it comes to lenses and the camera. The whole idea of this video, again I'm going to share it, that the amount of money that we are spending and the value that we are getting in return, image quality, sharpness, autofocus acquisition, megapixel, dynamic range, high ISO capability, number of card slots, high frames per second, blah blah blah, all these things, how much we are getting in return. So I share with you all these equipments which I think they are the very best value for the money that you are going to spend. Go and buy it, and you won't regret it. That's, I can assure you that. Thank you for watching this video. Wait for the part 2, which is going to be for the mirrorless. I'll see you in the next video. Till then, take care.